Yeah, so I was thinking about how I need a rocking chair because these wooden small chairs that I'm sitting on right now aren't cutting it for me. Then a crazy coincidence happened while I was in lab. I saw this gizmo rocking the same way back and forth that the rocking chair would rock back and forth. And my first instinct after meddling with all the dials on the machine was to make a video on it. So let's do this. Today, we're focusing on the laboratory rocker. Yeah, I know you guys might be thinking, didn't you make a video about a really similar machine a little while earlier? Yep, I did. It was on the orbital shaker, but I'm going to go through with this video for several reasons. Although these machines look pretty similar, and they both have the job of mixing stuff by moving, you notice that these machines move in different ways, meaning that they're used for different experiments, so I think it's only fair that each machine gets its own video made. Secondly, the laboratory rocker has a completely different mechanical setup than the orbital shaker. I'm going to dedicate this video to explaining the craziness that goes on behind the scenes to make this thing rock back and forth. And last but certainly not least, I'm 10 times the host, the YouTuber, the editor, the idiot, the educator. I'm like way better than I was a few months ago, so I think that I'm going to make this video a lot more engaging and a lot more entertaining for you guys. And it's going to feel like a completely different video, and it is because it's on a completely different machine. So without saying any more, let's get into it. Hit it. Now looking at both of these machines, I bet more similarities go through your head than differences. And that's very reasonable, considering that both of these machines have a very similar task of mixing stuff, and the only way they achieve this task is by doing the same movement over and over and over and over and over and over again until you like and subscribe to my channel. Do it. But if you look closely, the shaker and the rocker actually have different mixing motions. The shaker moves anything placed on it in a circular motion, like a merry-go-round, while the rocker moves its samples back and forth on the platform, like a rocking chair. And obviously, merry-go-rounds and rocking chairs have different purposes, and they can't be used interchangeably. Like you wouldn't try to put a baby to sleep sitting on a merry-go-round, right? Unless you want it to puke all over you, then go ahead. But the rocking chair has a far more gentle motion to put that little brat to sleep. In the same way, you would use a laboratory rocker over a shaker if you're aiming for a more gentle mixing or agitation motion, because the gel or the sample that you have on top of the platform could be more delicate, and it may fall apart if you put it on the more vigorous orbital shaker. Additionally, you may have a solution that you're trying to mix very precisely, and you don't want to make air bubbles in it because it could interfere with future measurements or recording steps. Thus, you would also go with the rocker in this case too. If you're trying to completely dissolve a sample in a solution, thoroughly distribute a mix of two reagents, or introduce air throughout a sample, you need a mixing motion with a bit more oomph to really ensure that everything gets mixed around thoroughly. And here's where you would go with the shaker, because the shaker has that extra degree of vigor and power that a rocker doesn't have, because the samples move in a circle. Because the samples move in a circular path, it causes the samples to experience a force from the center of the circular path, called the centrifugal force, which causes the samples to move in a circular path inside their containers, while already being moved around in the circular path from the motion of the machine, like a tilt-a-whirl. Blech. Now that we've covered the purposes for either machine, let's look at how both of them work. Actually, if you guys want to see how the orbital shaker works, check out my previous video on it right here. And I suggest you see it because it's a good explanation, and I'm more awkward and cringy in that one, so a little bit of free entertainment, you know? On to the rocker. How does the rocker achieve that hypnotizing motion of rocking back and forth? The answer? An eccentric mechanism. And no, that doesn't mean that the mechanism or the machine is weird. An eccentric mechanism is a mechanical part or device that can convert circular motion into linear motion. In this case, the eccentric mechanism is made up of two parts, the motor of the machine and the motor shaft. The circular motion begins in the heart of the machine where the motor is located. The motor has the shaft connected to one side of it. The most important thing to note is that the shaft is not attached directly to the center, hence the reason why it's called an eccentric mechanism. If the shaft was connected to the center, it would spin in a nice, neat circular motion. However, since it's connected away from the center, the machine will end up slowly drifting to a certain direction and going back towards the center before having the chance to complete a circular path. Additionally, there are hinges underneath the top plate of the machine to exaggerate the nodding and tilting motion as the plate moves back and forth. As a result, when you combine the slow fluctuation motion, meaning back and forth, from the eccentric mechanism with the tilting motion from the hinges, you get that signature rocking motion like a ship bobbing on the waves or like a seesaw with a heavy kid on each side. And this special motion is perfect for a ton of different experiments in the lab. You can grow cell and bacterial cultures on the rockers because when you put the cells in a dish and pour the nutrients that the cells need to grow on top of them, all the cells receive enough nutrients for maximum growth. The laboratory rocker is also super good at a very important experiment called the Western blot, which is used to identify the presence and quantity of specific proteins in a sample. The rocking allows the proteins to be transferred from the gel, and they are transferred onto a special membrane that they can be imaged on. One final important purpose of the laboratory rocker is working with DNA. The simple rocking motion is the perfect movement to allow for DNA hybridization experiments where you can join two single-stranded DNA molecules together to make double-stranded DNA. Who knew this simple rocking motion was so powerful? It's so powerful that I might even put it over the Millie Rock. Psych! Nothing beats the Millie Rock. So, that's my breakdown of the laboratory rocker. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys found the video more original than the last one. And stay tuned because I got some cool stuff coming out in the next few weeks. So, peace.